My name is Michelle Hannemann. I live in Wisconsin. I am married and I have two children, two boys. At 14, our son committed an internet crime which involved a sexual activity with a minor. And so he was accused, tried, and sentenced in the adult system. When he was arrested, he was actually 16. And so this was waived into the adult system. With that, he was in the court system for 3 years then prior to, from arrest to actually being sentenced, it was a 3-year process. It was a very long 3 years, as you can imagine, of in and out of the courtroom and him being treated as an adult. And I think the biggest piece is that as a parent, we didn't have a voice anymore because it was the adult system. So we went to the court, you know, sometimes it was weekly, on some months it literally was weekly, sometimes twice a week, but we did not say a word because our child, even though he was 16 years old, was being sentenced like he was an adult. That was really, really trying because when you don't have a voice as a parent to try to guide and help a judge or a prosecutor understand what your child is thinking and doing, it really leaves you feeling helpless. I think helpless and hopeless, which was really hard. Once he was sentenced, he was actually 18, and he went to a maximum security prison until they were able to put him where he belonged. When he got it's not called sentencing, but when they actually got him to where he needed to be, where they felt, it was called Fox Lake, and it was a medium security prison. And so that is where he spent his year. We were in a appellate process, and the judge gratefully dropped absolutely everything for us to start over because he realized that he had made some really big mistakes. Even though he realized he made some really big mistakes, it still was in the adult court. We went back to the drawing board, started the process. Our son was home with us in college. He was in college while he was incarcerated. They made it extremely difficult, but I pushed and pushed and pushed. I contacted every university, found out where he could go to school, how he could go to school. He had to mail in his assignments, he had to mail in his exams, he had to have a prison guard do the exams with him in a room to make sure that he wasn't cheating. Not sure how he could cheat, but but he did great, and he got a 4.0 while he was there. Once he was starting the appellate process, I think it gave him hope because he was in prison with people that had had such a different life than him. He had never had any record. He had never done anything wrong. He was a good student, involved in sports, got curious and made a very, very life-changing, terrible decision. And instead of being treated as a child, which we had always hoped he would be treated, he ended up being treated like he was an adult. And so moving forward, he was in prison with adults that had led a totally different life than him and was exposed to a lot of things that has changed him, has changed who he is as a person, because he's not as soft and sweet anymore because he's a little hardened, which is sad, just because he's had those experiences. And then also he feels very bad for people that are there that shouldn't be there. And he sees that how juveniles need to be treated differently, and he's such a product of that. No, so what's really interesting is because it took so long for us in the court process and for him to be sentenced, my husband and I, the day we got him out of jail on a bracelet when he was first arrested, we went to community services. It's a counseling format for sexual offense. And we got him registered for counseling, individual and group. We started that before the court even recommended it. They've never once said that he needed to have treatment. We took it upon ourselves to do that because we felt it was very necessary, because he made this decision that we knew wasn't okay. And he agreed. He completed that treatment when he got to prison, and the psychiatrist, psychologist, caseworker that met with him, he called me and said, I'm going to be meeting with this doctor. Could you, what should I tell her? Like, is there any information? And I said, I will get your record sent. And I got on the phone and I just inundated that prison with every treatment record I could get my hands on. There was a stack like this of treatment records from 2 years. His treatment providers were more than willing, and we sent it all. The Department of Corrections, she got back to us and said, you're right, we have nothing here for him. We have no treatment. He's completed absolutely everything. He just needs to sit tight and do his time. So no, to answer your question, they did not provide him with anything. He learned a lot of injustices, to be honest. He never denied that what he did was wrong, and he always believed that he should be punished. He never once said that he shouldn't have paid for what he did. And it's just that he shouldn't have been treated as an adult in the adult prison system. What he learned and what he took away from his experience was all the things, all the different decisions that people make. Sometimes there are reasons behind it. People aren't bad. He took that away of opening his eyes to all different types of people, that people don't wake up in the morning, and I've told my kids this, people don't wake up in the morning and say they want to be a bad person. They don't wake up and say, I really want to make a bad choice today. I really hope I get in trouble today. Nobody does that. So he was exposed to people that were very different than him, and it actually made him grow as a person and make him more mature. Sadly, it's almost, he missed so many of his formative years because he started this process so young, and he was on a bracelet for 26 months on house arrest, so he couldn't play sports, he couldn't go to, he got dropped off at one door at school and got picked up at the next, the same door at school. He wasn't able to go to after-school activities. We have to have permission to go to church, to go to a grocery store. Every minute of every day was accounted for on that bracelet. We had to call in every single minute if we were going to be away from the home. And because of that, he didn't develop in the sense of personality and social skills, because he didn't have any friends. Because how can you have friends when, number one, you're embarrassed, you're so full of shame, you've caused this big wedge in your family, and now you are staying home all the time. You don't. So I guess it opened his eyes to what's out there, and made him realize that there are so many different people, and there's a lot of good people out there that are in prison that really shouldn't be, and that there's other ways. We can help them. If given the opportunity, there are ways. My son is 20. My biggest thing of advice to give parents would be, number one, never forget that you are their foundation, and you are their strength, and you're their support, and whatever you can do to support them, even if you don't think it's a big deal for yourself, it's a big deal for them. You do need to go to bat for them, even if they are in the adult system and you don't have the right anymore because they're 18. There's a way, and you need to bully your way in, and squeaky wheel gets the grease, and it really does, because I proved that by pushing and pushing and pushing, and by having an appellate attorney that pushed and pushed and pushed, we're so fortunate that now he is out on parole, or on probation for 6 years. And once he completes this probation, then he will go on the sex offender registry for an additional 15 years. So when he's 41, he will be free and clear, although he will always have this one felony on his record. I think the biggest thing is when juveniles are put into the adult system, those formative years are so crucial for them to be around people their own age. When they're put with adults, it just doesn't blend. It's like putting kindergartners in with fifth graders and expecting them to get it. They don't get it, and they shouldn't be put in that situation. And I think those formative years are who create. These are the young people. This is our future. This is our tomorrow, and we want them to be as strong and productive and paying it forward and giving back into our communities and being pillars in our community. And if we treat them with respect and give them all the different opportunities that they deserve, they will become that. They truly will become the people that we want them to be if we're giving them that opportunity. But if we put them in a box and label them and keep them in the adult system with all these checks next to their name as this is what they are, that's their label for the rest of their life. And that's my goal, is to not have my son be a statistic. His goal is to not let his record and his past define him. It is to be able to move forward, as well as my involvement in this campaign is so no family ever has to go through a system the way we had to go through with our child in the adult system and not having a voice.